founder of this conservative youth organization that's called Turning Point USA. We wanted to learn a little bit more about this and who is Charlie Kirk for the people who don't know why this might matter so much today. So our political analyst, Michael Yaki, is here with us now. What is Turning Point USA, Michael? How would you describe it?
It's essentially basically a youth-based conservative group raised around sort of the ideological issues of the conservative movement. But I would say that they're anti-choice, anti-LGBT. They're very pro-family. It's something that Charlie Kirk did an incredible job of mobilizing and turning out the young people on college campuses for Donald Trump in both the 2016 and the 2024 elections. Someone who obviously was greatly admired by the president and certainly had used his influence as an influencer with his podcast and whatnot, and his rallies and his tours of college campuses to provoke, to stir up controversy, and to build membership and to draw donations. And this was an organization that went from almost zero to $94 million in annual donations in just a few years. So, and he was only 31 years old, very young. Mm-hmm. It's very tragic that this has occurred, but it is, unfortunately, in this particular year, a year of serious political violence in the United States.
Yeah, it was actually the president today who really came out first with the announcement that Charlie Kirk had passed away. In the Truth Social post that the president put up, he said, "We love you," to Charlie. How did the two of them become such close allies?
Well, I mean, what you had is someone who embodied sort of a younger conservative movement, something that people wouldn't actually normally associate. I always think younger people would be more liberal and more in tune, but this is someone who sort of reached into the idea that young people could be, very, very conservative in terms of abortion, in terms of LGBTQ rights, in terms of immigration. He took very extreme positions on a lot of these, but he actually took a lot of heat for initially endorsing and throwing his support behind Trump in 2016. Everyone thought he should be more mainstream. He took a risk with Trump, and it paid off for him and his organization, because that actually there was a sort of symbiotic relationship between the two in terms of their support for each other and the growth in support for each of their organization, each of their networks. So this is why he was very important to Donald Trump. He was someone who believed in him early on, supported him during his time away from office. One of the first people to go and publicly visit him in Mar-a-Lago, and essentially continue the endorsement going forward for his running again, and was a very big part of his election effort in 2024. So, he's important to it. His movement is important to him. How that movement continues and the organization continues after him, that'll remain to be seen. But certainly, just as a part of the political environment of this country, it's just another terrible tragedy in a long list of terrible tragedies of our country, of political violence and political assassination.
So he's 31 years old. He's got a wife, 2 young kids. Right. As you're mentioning, his close relationship with the Trump family, a huge following as being this conservative youth organization activist. What does his loss mean?
Well, we don't know. Obviously, there's going to be. I mean, will he be? I want to say these kinds of things. We just don't know. What we do know is that for his family, it's a terrible loss. For his supporters and followers, it's a shock. And the real issue, though, is going to be in the next sort of 48 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours in a week. What is going to happen as a result of this? These are very fervent supporters of Charlie Kirk and his ideology. And we have had a year of terrible political violence. We had 2 Democratic lawmakers assassinated in their homes and their families. We have someone who tried to set fire to the home of Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro while his family slept inside. We've had, numerous instances of violence at political rallies and marches, fire bombings, people getting run over. It's people try and relate this back to the sort of the political and social upheavals and violence in the 60s and 70s. I don't think it's like that at all. We have a very different kind of violence going on. It's individuals. It's people who are in their silos and listening to the feedback loop of their own extreme political views on either side. And we have to. That's something that we have to break, because we can't countenance this kind of thing continuing in this country. And you'll see the calls from the Democrats and Republicans, from the left and on the right, that this is terrible and this is horrible. But the question always is, like it always is in the wake of a mass shooting, what are we going to do about it? What are the steps we are going to take? It simply can't be martial law. It simply can't be, we surround everyone in politics should be surrounded by a cordon of security behind bulletproof glass. Although I think you're going to see a lot of that in the very near future. But what is we going to do about a nation that has fallen prey to systemic, horrible, terrible violence and perceived retribution for perceived and misinformed rights and wrongs perpetrated for and against them? So this is something that hopefully, because this person was so beloved by a great segment of the population, because he had someone who was so close to the president, does this possibly become a moment for, and I think it unfortunately has to come from that side of the political spectrum, to reassess and really think about what this means to our country and going forward, and how we deal with the issue of political disagreement and political polarization, because violence should not, ever not be the answer to that.
It's pretty quickly today that both Republicans and Democratic leaders condemn this political violence, calling for prayers. We just saw now that President Trump has ordered all American flags to be lowered to half-staff until Sunday night in honor of Kirk. I think that speaks also to their relationship and how many people this impacts.
Yes, no, I mean, in terms of his import to people, certainly he is someone who would be significant enough for the president to lower the flag to half-staff, as would any leader of any movement in this country who commanded their respect and following. So I mean, it's would the president do this for someone on the left side of the spectrum? I would hope so, because again, it sets a tone. It says we respect individuals. We may disagree with them, but part of American democracy has always been disagreements should be fought at the ballot box, not on the streets, not in the homes, not by violence by any means at all.
Michael, Yaki, we appreciate you joining us to talk about this breaking news today. I'm sure it will be